We are gathering to record the video for the session 4 of Unit 2, Law and Discipleship. This is a selection of text from St. Paul, Romans, the letter of St. Paul to the Romans, which is written kind of at the end of Paul's life, St. Paul's life. And it's about faith and salvation. The theologians would call this justification, which is an interesting concept. This is Nicholas Martin. He's the pastoral associate here at Sacred Heart. What a pastoral associate does, what do you think a pastoral associate does?
A lot more things than you think. Feels like 1,000 jobs sometimes.
And we are trying to, it's a new position, so we're trying to develop it a little bit. So what do you think about justification? What would be your questions? The question is simple in the sense that, you know, many times you have the disciples asking Jesus, how many people will be saved? And Jesus always answers not how many, but how. Mm-hmm. The question is, how do we, because it should be the goal of everybody, and I'm a canon lawyer, as you know. The last canon of the Code of Canon Law says that the supreme law of the church is the salvation of souls. Salvation is what we should all worry about, and that's justification. How do we get saved?
So that's an interesting question. I think many of our brothers and sisters consider justification to be by faith. It's something that if we believe in Jesus Christ that we'll be saved. And
as if that is enough, right? Mm-hmm. And in some of the texts that we have selected to discuss this, and then we also have a page with some selections from the Catechism, the Catholic thinking, first of all, there is a misunderstanding when Paul speaks about faith and works. He really is speaking about works of the law. Mm-hmm. And Paul is just saying what Jesus said, that you cannot be saved by just dryly following a great number of precepts of the law, that there is something else. But at the same time, we Catholics, along with our Protestant brothers and sisters, we believe that ultimately we get saved through God's grace.
Yes, absolutely. Saved through God's grace and faith in His redemption.
Mm-hmm. So works, what does it mean? It means that if you believe in God, if you try to live the gospel, then you're wanting to do good things to others that would come naturally.
Right, it's exactly like James says, if you will show your faith to me by your works.
Mm-hmm. But we still believe that justification, that we get saved by God's grace. We Catholics are a little, so a Protestant person would come to you and ask you, are you saved? And we Catholics don't really take it this way. First of all, we've produced a misunderstanding, thinking that you could earn salvation. We don't believe that you can earn salvation, the same way that we don't think you should be able to earn the sacraments. That we do prepare people, but doesn't mean like we are earning a sacrament. Sacraments are free gifts from God. But the same idea with these, Catholics have turned this faith and works into something that you could earn. Salvation is in God's hands, and we hope God will use the criteria of having been a good human being to others, right?
I like to, when I'm discussing with people, I like to say it's not so much that we can earn salvation, it's that it's already bought for us by Jesus Christ, but we always have the ability to say no. And so it's our response, it's our acceptance of His grace. Mm-hmm.
Because we were created in freedom, and freedom is very important for God. So God He doesn't even force His own Son to go through everything He went through, especially through the cross, as something that was forced. Jesus and God created humans with this freedom. Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions?
So, I guess you could say one of the questions in regards to this would be, what do you think Paul is saying to the Romans in these passages?
I believe Paul is reminding us of this, that we get saved mainly because of God's grace through the life of Jesus Christ, especially the cross. But at the same time, once you embrace the love of Christ, once you proclaim yourself, your intention to be a disciple of Jesus, then everything makes sense, and maybe this century-long discussion between grace and work it's not important anymore. I think we Catholics tend to look at salvation like, I always make a comparison or an analogy with the credit card mentality, like it's an awards. These plane companies,
right, you get your
flying,
points
that you get points. and then we go to mass and we get points, and then we do a good thing for someone, you get points. We sin, we get discounted a little bit. This mentality that then you get to heaven kind of, and do I have enough points to make it to heaven? And I don't think it's that. I think it's more a behavior, an attitude, but certainly we don't earn salvation. It's in God's hands. It's interesting that we are celebrating the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, something that was one of the differences between the Protestant churches and the Catholic Church is a lot around this idea of justification. But I think we have to insist, we get saved through God's grace, that at the same time that we are created in His image, so with all the elements to attain salvation, to become saints, as we reflected in All Saints last week.
So if we're saved by if we're justified by God's grace, then what role do faith and works play in that in our lives?
That once you embrace that reality, and once you know that this is the goal of life, and that God wants to save you, then why would you not act according to this? Precisely when you know, it's like a child who needs some incentive to get good grades. Once you are a good person and you know that education is good for you, then you do it because you want to do it, not because you are earning anything.
Right.
I think that's a good example to simplify a very complicated question. You think we got some information so our youth can discuss this topic?
I guess we'll see.
We'll try again.
Yeah.